My wife opened our marriage because of her stupid friends, and when I left her, tried to renew everything. My wife, Emily, and I have been together for 10 years, married for 8. We met in college, both of us young, stupid, and in love. She was my first, my only, and I thought I was hers. I used to believe we had something special, something rare, but I was just a damn fool. A while back, Emily started a new job. She was never the social butterfly type, but I encouraged her to make friends so she would feel more comfortable. Eventually, she fell in with a group of women, most of them either single, divorced, or just casually dating. I was happy for her at first, glad she had people to talk to, but then she started going out more and more. Drinks after work, weekend getaways, parties. It felt like she was becoming a whole new person, and not in a way that made sense for a married woman. I tried to talk to her about it, but I did not want to come across as controlling. At the same time, I could not ignore the fact that our bedroom life had completely shifted. She had never been the type to initiate, but now she was always too tired or not in the mood. Something felt off. Then, her company got a new manager, some smooth-talking guy named Brandon. Suddenly, she was bringing him up all the time. It started small, mentioning how he was great at problem-solving, but it quickly turned into full-blown admiration. I asked her outright why she was so interested in this guy, but she laughed it off like I was imagining things. And then, out of nowhere, she asked if I regretted not having more experience with women. I told her no, because she was all I ever wanted. For a second, I swear I saw something like sadness in her face, but she changed the subject before I could ask about it. Not long after that, she started talking about open marriages, saying it could bring excitement into our relationship. That one stopped me dead in my tracks. Emily had never been the type to entertain something like that. I asked her if this had anything to do with Brandon, but she denied it. She admitted she felt like she had missed out on something and thought this was the safest way to explore without ruining our marriage. I should have slammed the brakes right there, but I was too stupid to see the train wreck ahead. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We laid down rules: no sleeping with anyone in our home, for starters. And just like that, Emily dove headfirst into her new freedom. She went on dates, had one-night stands, and shock of all shocks, ended up in some kind of relationship with Brandon. Meanwhile, I went on a few dates, but could never bring myself to cross the line. It just felt wrong. Emily would occasionally ask if I was okay, but her actions never changed. Over time, something inside me shifted. The love I had for her, the pure, unshakable trust, died. It gutted me. Then, one night, I met Sophia. She had just moved here from South Korea, and from the moment we sat down together, it was like a breath of fresh air. Conversations with her were effortless. She was funny, sharp as a whip, and had a way of making me feel seen. I did not expect anything to come from it, but date after date, we fell into something real. Eventually, we became intimate. And let me tell you, I had never experienced anything like it. She made me feel wanted in a way I never had before. It was not just about the physical, it was the way she looked at me, the way she touched me like I was the only man in the world. At first, Emily thought it was cute, but as time passed, she started questioning my relationship with Sophia. I reminded her that this was her idea, that she was the one in a relationship with Brandon. She went quiet, like she wanted to argue but could not find the words. And then, just like that, she started acting like a wife again. She came home early to cook dinner, clean the house like it was an Olympic sport, and even started dropping off lunch at my office. For the first time in years, she actually initiated intimacy. A year ago, I would have been over the moon. But now, I barely responded to advances, and when I did, it was just to get it over with. Whatever I had felt for her before, it was gone, and we both knew it. One night, I finally asked what brought on the sudden change. Her answer? She wanted to show me she loved me, that she was happy with me. I do not know why, but I laughed. I asked her about her adventures, about Brandon, about the one-night stands she had been so eager to have. She had nothing to say, just went to bed in tears. The next day, she was waiting for me when I got home. She told me she wanted to close the marriage, said it was all a terrible mistake, that she regretted everything, that she wanted us to go back to the way things were. I asked her to be honest, why did she even suggest this in the first place? And of course, it all went back to her friends. They had talked her into it, feeding her stories about their experiences. Then Brandon came along, and he was all for it, told her she should live free and see what the world had to offer. Turns out, it was not just emotional, it had been physical. But only once, she swore, as if that made it any better. She thought opening the marriage would fix whatever she thought was missing. Said it felt like being drunk behind the wheel, thrilling, exciting, but now, she sees the damage it caused. She realizes she never needed the experience, that what we had was already something special. But now, she thinks she has shattered everything beyond repair. And the worst part? She is probably right. I told Emily straight up I might never be able to see her as my wife again. And just like that, she broke down in front of me. I did not say a word. I just held her as she sobbed into my chest until, eventually, she cried herself to sleep right there on the couch. Since that night, she has quit her job, cut off every last one of those so-called friends, and ghosted Brandon completely. She told me she is willing to spend the rest of her life proving to me that she is still my wife, that she will work herself to the bone just to fix what she broke. But here is the thing: I have not cut contact with Sophia, and I do not know if I ever will. With her, I feel like a man again, like I can take on the whole damn world. That is something Emily has not made me feel in a long, long time. The truth is, I do not know what the hell to do. A part of me wants to believe that special feeling we once had can come back. But another part of me knows that Sophia was the one who pulled me out of the darkest place I have ever been in. I need help. Oh, and we have our first marriage counseling session in a few hours. No idea how that is going to go. Edit. I did not expect so many people to respond. Thank you all for your advice, your support, even your tough words. I appreciate it. I will post an update after the therapy session because, honestly, I have a feeling that conversation alone is going to be something else. But for now, I will answer a few common questions. No, Sophia is not married. She is in an open marriage. As for what I want out of this, I still have no damn clue. I love Emily, but I do not trust her. At the same time, walking away from 10 years together feels impossible. I agreed to therapy because I need to get my head straight, to make a decision that is not just based on emotion or anger. No, I never asked to go through Emily's phone. I did not want to see it. The images in my head were bad enough, I did not need to make them real. Seeing her messages with another man, seeing proof of it, that would have shattered me more than I already was. Also, something happened this morning. When I got out of the shower, I caught Emily holding my phone, her hands shaking as she stared at the screen. I just took it from her and walked away without saying anything. The message she had seen? It was from Sophia. Good morning, handsome. I slept in your t-shirt last night because I miss going to bed and waking up in your arms. I miss greeting the new day with a kiss from you. That one hit Emily hard. For the past 2 hours, she has not left my side. She even followed me on my jog this morning, something she has never done, not once in our entire relationship. Let me back up a bit. Let me tell you how I met Sophia in the first place. It was an evening like any other. Emily was off on one of her dates, so I went to the bookstore, like I always did when I needed to escape all of this. That was when I saw her. She was being followed by some short, stocky guy, and he was yelling at her. I was going to mind my own business until he grabbed her arm and yanked her around hard. Something in me snapped, and before I even knew what I was doing, I stepped in. Now, I am not some martial arts master, but I have practiced judo for a few years enough to handle myself. Long story short, I managed to restrain the guy, and in the process, I accidentally dislocated his wrist. Turns out, he was some creep she had gotten fired for sexual harassment, and he did not take it too well. After that, she insisted on buying me a coffee to say thank you. I said yes. When I told her about my open marriage, she was hesitant. She did not want to be a homewrecker. But once she heard the full story she realized Emily had been the one who pushed for this in the first place. She stopped holding back. I even joked with her once. You have 2 choices for a story to tell your grandkids: either I saved your grandmother from a scumbag and she fell into my arms, or your grandmother took a year off from marriage to sleep around, and I, like an idiot, just went along with it. Update 1. Just got out of therapy. The therapist seemed solid, calm, experienced, did not take sides. She actually seemed like she wanted to help. It was our first session, but Emily laid everything out. She admitted that her friends made her question if she had missed out on life. She had never been with anyone but me, never had the wild experiences they bragged about. These women who, I should remind you, are all either single or divorced made her feel like she had wasted her youth. The therapist pointed out that this kind of thinking can destroy marriages. Emily agreed. Then, she confessed that when Brandon started showing her attention, her friends encouraged her to go for it, told her it was her chance to explore and figure herself out. She said she felt guilty. So, she swore she never let things get physical, at least, not at first. But then, one of her divorced friends brought up open marriage, told her that some couples grow stronger from it. And that was it. That was the loophole she needed to justify everything. She convinced me to agree. And just like that, her so-called adventure began. At first it was exciting, thrilling even, but it lacked anything real, nothing like what we had built over the years. She admitted she saw the hurt in my eyes, but kept telling herself this was just some harmless experience. She said she hated herself for it, that she had chosen a temporary high over something real, and it did not really hit her until she saw the way I had changed. At first, Emily thought that since I was going on dates, I would eventually come around and accept this whole situation. She figured that, with time, I would just adjust to it. But everything changed when Sophia became a real and constant presence in my life. Apparently, I started smiling again for no reason. My eyes would light up whenever I got a text. I would actually get up and leave the room just to take a call, something I never used to do. She said she started feeling this pit in her stomach, something heavy and suffocating, and then, out of nowhere, she began having panic attacks. She went back to her friends for advice, hoping they would have some magic words to make it all make sense. But they just shrugged it off, telling her my reaction was normal for an open marriage. Then, the same divorced woman who had encouraged this whole mess in the first place just looked at her and said, "Well, looks like his lover makes him happy." That was the moment it all hit her. For the first time, she had to actually see what she had done, not in some abstract, distant way, but in real time. She was watching another woman give me what she had taken for granted, watching someone else light up my world in a way she used to. And the idea that it was no longer her making me happy? That realization nearly knocked her flat. She begged her friends to help her win me back, but they just scoffed. If you couldn't handle it, why did you open your marriage in the first place? That was the breaking point. That was when she finally saw these people for what they were: poison. Toxic influences that had convinced her to destroy everything we had built together. Since then, she has been on a mission to fix this, to win me back by any means necessary. I, on the other hand, did not say much during therapy. I just sat there and listened. But I did make one thing clear: I have not cut Sophia out of my life. The therapist did not seem too surprised. She just said that no real resolution could ever be reached while my lover was still in the picture. Then she suggested we schedule another session for tomorrow. She also made a point to say that staying with your first love for so long is rare, that relationships like ours could weather any storm if we really put in the work. I have a feeling she wants us to be one of her success stories. Sorry for the long update, but I figured it was best to lay it all out. Edit. I know I have said this before, but Sophia makes me feel like a man. And what I mean by that is, when I have a rough day, I do not come home to cold indifference. I am met with warmth, a soft embrace, someone who actually wants to hear about my problems. When I doubt myself, she lifts me up. She tells me that nothing is out of my reach, that I am capable of more than I even realize. And more than anything, and maybe this will sound old-fashioned, but I do not care, she gives me space to be the man in the relationship. Sophia believes that women were meant to do the things men cannot do. She thinks men are not naturally nurturing or compassionate the way women are, and she does not resent that fact. She embraces it. She always says, "A gentle heart can calm a raging volcano." Some old Korean proverb, I think. She believes that in the bedroom, she should be in charge, keep things exciting but never undermine me in other areas. She also believes men do not have a lot of needs, that as long as those few things are met, a man will basically move mountains for the woman he loves. Now, do not get me wrong, she believes in mutual respect and equal pay. She is no pushover. But she does not buy into the extremes that some people push for these days. Maybe that sounds sexist to some people, but honestly, I think it is just cultural. Edit 2. Like I said, Sophia makes me feel like a man. I assume most of you reading this are from the West. And out here, women like her, they are rare. I am talking 1 in 100 rare. I spent years dealing with women who were nothing like her. So, when I finally found one, do you think I just let that go? Now, let us talk about Emily for a second. She had everything. A husband who adored her, a home, a stable life, and yet, she let some random outsiders get into her head and tell her, "Hey, why settle for a guy who actually loves you? Why not sleep around with some men who do not give a damn about you?" Sound familiar? Because let us be real here, what I am doing right now, between Emily and Sophia, is not so different from what she did to me. So, here is the question. Am I going to be just like her? Am I really about to take a woman who adores me, who only has eyes for me, and throw her away just because I cannot let go of some idealized version of Emily that only exists in my memories? Am I seriously about to ditch someone who lifts me up for someone who only married me because she wanted to check a box while running around behind my back at the first chance she got? If I decide to stick with Emily, I better be damn sure about it. Because the second I let Sophia go, it is over. And here is your warning. Emily only wants me now because I look like a catch, because another woman wants to steal me away, but that feeling will fade, and when it does, she will go back to being the same person she was before. And if that happens, I will have lost them both. Because, let us be honest, a woman like Sophia, a woman who makes a man feel like a man, she is rare, and once she is gone, she is gone. And when that happens, I will be right back here regretting everything. Update 2. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who has reached out. I am sorry I cannot reply to each and every one of you, whether in my inbox or on this post. Anyway, here is where things stand. This whole situation has turned into something straight out of Jerry Springer. I have since moved into an apartment owned by my brother. He rents out a few properties, and while he would have let me stay for free, I refused. So now I am living in a place of my own, paying a ridiculously low price, trying to figure out what comes next. Now, about Emily and some disturbing things I found out about Brandon. During our second counseling session, I decided to ask some of the questions people suggested. I asked Emily if she was absolutely certain that nothing physical had happened before we opened the marriage. She dropped her gaze to the floor and begged me not to make her say it. Said that if she said it out loud, it would destroy whatever was left of us. After pushing her, she finally admitted the truth. It was not full-on physical, but they had touched themselves in front of each other. This dirtbag convinced her that, since they never actually made physical contact, it was not technically cheating. Told her they were just enjoying each other's full beauty. I was absolutely floored. Emily started shaking, hyperventilating, tears and snot running down her face as she sobbed and apologized over and over. Even the therapist looked shocked, like she had not expected that one. Then, right there in the middle of the session, Emily dropped to her knees, grabbed onto my legs, and clung to me like I was the only thing keeping her afloat. I asked her straight up, "What made you see him for what he really was?" She said that after she started pulling away from that group, Brandon's attitude toward her changed. Then, one night after a meeting, she was walking past his office and overheard him talking to a male colleague. And this is what he said. "I was surprised at how easy it was to get her. She is proof that you cannot trust the quiet ones." His colleague asked if he actually had feelings for her, and you know what his response was? "She was a pleasant distraction, but I have zero intention of breaking up with my fiancée." Then he laughed and said, "This was just to get it out of my system. The only woman who truly understands me is my fiancée, and I would never leave her." And the final dagger, I kind of feel bad for her husband, but hey, you snooze, you lose. At that moment, reality slammed into Emily. She meant nothing to this man. She had thrown away her marriage, betrayed everything we had built for what? A cheap thrill? The weight of it hit her all at once. She ran out of the building, barely made it to her car, and threw up in the parking lot. Her first thought was, "What have I done?" Her second thought, "Please forgive me. I am so sorry." I asked her straight, "Did you love him? And when did you stop loving me?" She looked me dead in the eyes, tears streaming down her face, and said, "I never stopped loving you." which, honestly, makes it worse. She told me Brandon was just something different, that she thought it was love, but now she sees how foolish that was. Then she grabbed my arm, holding onto it like she was afraid I would disappear, and said, "I know I messed up, but I miss us. I miss what we had. I want to fix this. Let us move away, start fresh, just the two of us, as it was meant to be." I told her straight. That would not be fair to Sophia, and that I needed time away from her to process everything. It was like those words shattered whatever fragile hold she had on herself. She completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, clinging to me like a drowning person, grasping for air. She kept saying things I could barely understand through the crying. It took both me and the therapist a long time to calm her down. The therapist finally convinced her that time apart might actually help us heal. I wish I could end this update here, but something else happened. As I was packing my things, Emily got a video call on her laptop. It was one of her old friends from that same toxic group, and she was in tears. Turns out, after Emily quit, this friend started messing around with Brandon. And guess what? She had a pregnancy scare. The second she told him, he completely changed. Went from smooth-talking charmer to cold, ruthless stranger. To make things worse, she already had a boyfriend. A man she said she could actually see a future with. And the reason she even considered getting involved with Brandon? Curiosity. Does that sound familiar? Because it sure as hell does to me. Her boyfriend found out when he came across an email between her and Brandon talking about the pregnancy. But here is the kicker. Brandon accused her of baby-trapping him. At this point, I do not even have words. This has been a disaster from start to finish. All I know is, I am not rushing into any decisions. I need time. Time to think. Time to heal. And most importantly, time to figure out if I even want to save this marriage at all. Oh, and about that friend? Her boyfriend dumped her on the spot. And the reason she reached out? She thought Emily had somehow saved our marriage and was looking for advice. I just turned and walked out the door. And I have been in my new apartment ever since. Once again, thank you all for your thoughts and advice. Update 3. First off, I want to thank everyone who has reached out, whether with advice, shared experiences, or just offering a place to vent. It truly means a lot. Well, a lot has happened. Turns out, that former friend who had the pregnancy scare was actually pregnant. But between losing her boyfriend and the shame of the whole affair, the stress became too much, and she ended up losing the baby. After that, she completely lost it. Went full scorched earth on Brandon, exposing everything to upper management and his fiancée. Out of curiosity, I looked up his fiancée on Facebook. And honestly, this woman looks like the definition of sweet, the kind of small-town girl people write country songs about. Based on her profile, she is a special needs teacher, a homebody, and incredibly family-oriented. My first thought, what the hell was this guy doing messing around with other women when he had her at home? I will never understand why men like him end up with women like her. It has to be one of life's greatest mysteries. The former friend actually reached out to me, said she was gathering evidence against Brandon and wanted my side of things. But she wanted to meet in person. She had already gotten a COVID test, and so had I, so I agreed. The second I saw her, I could tell she was broken. Dark circles under her eyes, red, swollen irises. She looked like she had not slept in days. It was like she was haunted by her own thoughts. She thanked me for meeting her and immediately apologized for her part in Emily's adventure. Apparently, she and Emily had spoken again, and that was when she learned I had moved out. She did not try to make excuses. She did not shift the blame. She just wanted to take responsibility for her role in everything, which was why she needed to meet in person. I thanked her for the effort, but I had to ask why, go this far? She told me that losing both the child and the love of her life changed her at the core. Said she can barely look in the mirror without feeling disgusted. And every time she closes her eyes, all she sees is her ex's face the moment he found out the truth. Honestly, it felt like this meeting was a way for her to punish herself. She also told me that, because relationships between coworkers are a breach of conduct, especially since Brandon was in a position of power, he would most likely be fired and blacklisted from his industry. But the same might happen to her too, and she had accepted that. After she got my side of the story, she apologized again and left. Now, about Emily. I needed to grab a few things from the old place, so I picked a time when I thought she would not be home. No such luck. But what surprised me was that she had all our wedding photos spread out on the coffee table. Some old pictures, too. She was just sitting there, staring at them. When she noticed me, I could see that she had been crying. She tried to hug me. I gently pushed her aside. She asked if I wanted lunch. I told her I was not hungry, and that I would not be staying long. Before I could go, she said she had something to show me. She pulled out her phone and showed me a message she got 2 days ago from a new number, since she had blocked Brandon's old one. It was him, furious. Apparently, Emily had helped her former friend expose him to all the higher-ups. She said she got the idea from Chump Lady and Marriage Builders somewhere in there. She read that exposing the secret strips it of its power, that it could give us a fighting chance. I told her I was glad she had the courage to do that, but it did not change anything between us. Then I told her I would be stopping marriage counseling, that I would be going to individual counseling instead. She started crying softly and said she understood. I know I should feel something about all this, maybe relief that she finally took action, maybe anger that it took her this long, but all I feel is numb. And that is not normal, which is why I want to focus on my healing first, before I even think about whether this marriage is worth saving. I also met with a divorce lawyer, at my brother's recommendation, just to be safe. As of right now, I am not willing to fight for this marriage, and Emily knows it. Before I left, she tried to initiate intimacy. When I refused, she snapped. She yelled, "What does your lover do for you that I cannot? What does she give you that I cannot?" And then, voice shaking, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Whatever it is you want, I will do it. Just tell me." I shook my head and said, "If you still do not know after everything that has happened, then I think we both know where this is headed." And then I walked out. That is where things stand for now. Write your opinion about this story. You can also share yours in the comments. It'll be interesting to read. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Your support is very important to me. Take care of yourself,